So we're back with Battlegroup Clash Baltics, turn 3, third of 5 turns, and I suspect this is where we're going to have to see a bit of a push from the Russians. But before we get to the execution phase, we start with the command phase. We're going to rally any units that have either a suppressed or a disrupted marker. They need to roll a single dice and roll better or lower than their troop quality number, that number in the black circle to the right of the NATO symbol. That number is modified, and in this instance it's modified for that unit up there by -2 because it is disrupted. So instead of having a troop quality of 5, it effectively has a troop quality of 3. It needs to roll 3 or better to move from disrupted to suppressed, and it rolls a 4, so it remains disrupted. The unit down here, troop quality of 5, -1, so troop quality of 4, and that rolls a 5 and that remains suppressed. So that's a pretty bad start for the NATO forces there, who are clearly pretty shook up, and they're going to suffer the consequences potentially in the forthcoming action. Let's now move to this cluster of Russian pieces that are suppressed. We'll go from left to right. So we're rolling against a 4 with a -1 against this tracked unit. That is a 2, so that suppression marker is removed and it is rallied. Let's move along the line. Again, 4 modified to 3. That fails on a die roll of 4, so that remains suppressed just as it's getting close to the action. We got the jitters, and same with this one here. That rolls a 3, which is sufficient for that to recover, so that is no longer suppressed. So that's the rally phase, and then both sides could simultaneously issue new orders if they felt that the orders currently assigned to their individual task forces could not be implemented. I don't believe that's the issue in this case, so we're not going to worry about that for now. So that brings the rally and new orders section to an end. We're now going to move into the EW activity phase. It's just the Russians who managed to intercept electronic transmission when the NATO forces fired their mortar. Or I should be more accurate and say NATO intercepted electronic noise from the artillery strike by the Russians, but the Russians used their electronic warfare chit to discard those. So only the Russians have chits remaining. So at this stage we flip them over to 1. That will get replaced by a number 1 targeting token, which I'll put off to the side and they can use at a stage in the forthcoming turn. And both sides are now going to draw an electronic warfare chit. The Russians will choose 2 because they had those 2 the higher number of ETX intercepts than NATO. So shuffle those around. So it's NATO, and these are the 2 that the Russians have. Let's take a look. Let's look at NATO. They can hold that, and a UAS with line of sight to target grants a +4, which was useful, or they can roll a 1d6, and on a 4 to 6 the enemy UAS has no line of sight this turn. So do I maintain it for my own bonus or NATO's benefit, or do I attempt to disrupt? I think what they're going to do is they're going to roll the dice, see if they can get a 4 to 6 and deny line of sight for the UAS this turn. Let's roll the dice. It's a 3. that chit has failed its job. US spoofing doesn't work, and the Russian line of sight, UAS maintains its line of sight. The two Russian chits, they can discard ETX markers at some point if they choose, which I think is the unit they're going to keep. I think they're going to hold on to these two. We'll see how they play out a little bit later in the turn. So comms secure and a secure line. So Russian comms is proving to be robust. That brings the electronic warfare activity phase to an end, and the command phase to an end. So we now move into the execution phase, where we determine initiative. Both sides are going to roll a dice. I think without worrying about the die roll modifiers, it's clear in this instance that NATO has gained the initiative. So NATO can choose to act first, or they can put the Russians in first. But I think the NATO forces are going to take first action and try and get on the front foot. Task Group 1 for NATO is going to be activated first. And we're going to start with this unit, which is going to do a move fire. I think I may have played things slightly wrong in the first turn, because this unit is actually in dense wood. So firing in and out of that shouldn't really have been possible, because dense wood is an obstruction. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a move fire. So we're just going to move out of the woods. Can't get closer than 250 meters, so we're keeping it just there, but we're enough out of the woods to now have a clear shot with the NLAW against this stack. None of the Russian pieces are on overwatch, so they can't reactive fire back. So this is a free hit, and then that NATO unit is going to use its movement to get away and find a better defensive position. We need to just make sure, of course, that Task Group 1 can continue to, or is continuing to meet its orders according to its sync matrix, which in turn 3 is to withdraw for Task Group 1 is to withdraw to north of Cindy Bridge. So over the next 3 turns, Task Group 1's job is to withdraw up here, but it does say continue to disrupt enemy advance where possible. So I think it's possible to argue that a move fire action is doing precisely that. So we've crept out, we barely moved up, 100 meters there. So we're going to fire. It's a 6 troop quality, so +2 to the die roll, -1 because it's a NATO unit taking a move fire action. Firing with the NLAW. Let's get the dice tower out now. Oh wow, that's very good. So that's 11 + 1, that's 12 with the NLAW. That does 2 hits to this. And what that's going to do is that's already on 1, so that has destroyed that tracked unit altogether. That is out of the game. In fact, we put it over. That's going to, I think, generate something at the end of the turn. Now, the embedded or mounted infantry unit there has to take 2 hits or roll twice to see whether it takes collateral damage. 4+, it will do so, and it does. That's going to take 2 hits, and it has 2 resilience points. Currently, that is completely destroyed. So that was one powerful strike by those NATO infantry units, and they've caused a huge amount of damage there to the Russian advance. And now they are in the open. They have 2,000 meters maximum. They've used about 100 just to creep out of the woods. So they've got 2,000. I beg your pardon. They're foot soldiers. They've got 750 meters of movement left. So I mean, if you wanted, we're going to go 100, 250, 500. So sort of 250, 500. And then I think they can probably just edge themselves into that light wood. I think that's probably an acceptable movement. We can mark them as moved. The unit here, actually we can also remove those shell scrapes, of course, because they're no longer dug in. This infantry unit here is also going to do a move fire. There's nothing the Russians have on Overwatch, so they're not in the woods, so they've got 750 meters, and they're just going to head for. Let's see. I think we'll go up here. I mean, slightly exposed there, so I think we may go one. We're going to head in this direction. We'll reach about here with their 750 meters. And as they go, they're going to get within range with their NLAW. And sorry, I do have to remove that unit's NLAW because, of course, it's now fired twice. They're going to fire with this NLAW against this stack here as they go. I'm just going to mark their eventual destination. It's going to be about there. But again, we've got 2d6 plus 2 because of their troop quality of 6, minus 1 because they're doing a move fire action. 7 plus 1 is 8, which with an NLAW results in, wow, that's 2 hits. So those NLAWs have really earned their corn. So that tracked unit takes 2 hits. Its resilience is down from 3 to 2. What am I? 3 to 2 to 1. If I can find it. There we are. And now we have to check again whether the mounted foot unit inside takes any collateral. Again, 4 plus. Oh my goodness me, the die rolls this time round. They are pulverizing the Russian assault. That goes from 3 resilience points to 1 resilience point. And I think we can say that Task Force 1, this unit will continue its move thus far. That NLAW is now used. That shell scrape has gone. And Task Group 1 has been activated. And I should think we'll be feeling very good about their last 5 minutes of work. The Russians are going to begin by activating their 152 millimeter artillery. They have 2 strikes with that left, and they are going to target this unit. Now, something to point out, the FPV's fire plan in the sync matrix says that it must target this hex. However, and were it to target any other, not hex, grid square, were it to target any other grid square, it would pay a price in terms of 3 electronic warfare chits pulled. However, in this instance, they're going to play this electronic warfare chit that they pulled at the start of the turn, which says that any indirect fire outside of the fire plan only generates 1 ETX. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because this unit with Overwatch and at full strength and dug in is potentially going to be quite a barrier to the Russian advance. So I want to see if I can soften it up before the ground units move in. So we've got some indirect fire. We declare the target, which is that unit there, within line of sight of a friendly I-Star unit, where we have UAS providing the I-Star spot. There must be no danger close, nothing within 500 meters of where that's going to land, or nothing of your own side. They don't have an EW chit other than this one that they want to play. They're going to play that EW chit. They are going to play a target marker, so they have that +1, so they're going to give the target marker that was generated at the start of the turn in the electronic warfare phase. So we're going to start by rolling 2d6. Let me bring that in there so you can see what comes of it. 6. So we start with a base of 6. Target marker of +1 knocks it up to 7. UAS with line of sight 8, 9. A friendly recce with line of sight. If I zoom out, we can see that this recce unit here does have line of sight. Actually, I don't think it does. It's in these woods. It can't pass through 2 obstructions, because this is in woods itself, a light woods itself. That counts as 2 obstructions. You know, the way I think of it is if the line of sight has crossed that line, effectively that has passed through an obstruction. If it was firing at something in the open, or if the recce unit itself was out, then the bonus would have stood. So I probably sequenced things wrong, and I probably should have pushed my recce unit forward. But anyway, I didn't, so we're not going to get the additional +1 there. So we were at 6, 7, 8, 9. The target is foot, yes, in light wood. Now that wouldn't apply if it wasn't in a shell scrape, but it is, so we get a -1. So we're back down to 8. The target doesn't have a move marker. It is in a shell scrape, so that's down to 6. So 6 on artillery, 152, is a 1. So 1 hit. That is dropped down to a 3. Resilience. Oh, sorry. So let's flip that over. And it takes a suppression. Artillery does generate 1 ETX, so we're going to randomly draw an ETX for NATO. It would have been 3 because it's outside the fire plan had the Russians not played that, so we'll put that TX marker off to the side. So it has weakened it. Actually, I'm not sure. Was it already at... Was it at 3? I'm going to have to just check the order of battle at the start of the turn. Whether it was at 3 resilience. It was, sorry, it began at 3 resilience, so that's down to 2 resilience. So we do have to replace that. So 2 resilience. Worth noticing that the figure in the white box, which represents its assault strength, its value in assault strength, at full strength it begins with 14, reduced to 12 at 3 resilience, and it's down to 10 at 2 resilience. So that is the artillery activated. The mark it is activated off the map and reduce its fires down from 2 to 1. It has 1 fire left, and the action switches back to NATO. NATO has quite a simple decision to make. It's going to move its UAS drone, which the fire plan now for NATO's FPV drone and its mortar are between them, these two grid squares here. So we really need to get the UAS relocated to the same location. I don't think there's anything in the rules that prevents drones occupying the same grid intersection, so we'll just mark them both. I'll position them though, and the UAS has moved, so we can go back to the Russians. At this point, I think the Russians are going to activate Task Group 1. Let's just flip that at well. The first thing we're going to do is we have a infantry foot unit, pretty weak now, mounted there, but that is the first thing it's going to do is dismount. So it is now out in the open, and there's no cost to it dismounting, and it can in fact now take a normal move or fire or an assault action. What it's going to do, I think, is from where it is it can fire. I can't use its RPG against that, because RPGs, I think, can only be used against tracked vehicles. So not able to use its RPG. It's going to fire on the 2 column against the NATO unit here in those light woods. So the only modifier is going to be a -1. It has a range of 1,000, so that's fine. So let's roll that. We roll a 5, which on the 2 column results in a suppression. As it already has a suppression marker, nothing happens. So we can mark that unit as having activated. The stabber is going to do, not the stabber, the tracked unit again is going to do the same. It can fire again on the 2 column, exactly the same, with a -1. To the result. No, that's +1, so that has no effect either. So activated. Now the second stack for Task Group 1 is this, and it is going to attempt to it's going to just move, because its sync matrix requires it to be within this grid at the end of this turn. So with its movement of 2,000 in open ground would get it easily into here. it has to move a little bit through this sort of lightly built up area, light urban, which for a tracked vehicle remains 2000, so it's not a problem. So the snack is going to just simply come through the, actually it's on a road anyway, across the bridge and make its way into here. It's not dismounted. It can't the infantry unit can't dismount if that the tracked unit that it is part of has been activated. So with that, task group 1 is complete in its turn, and by dint of having kind of reached that, or at least one part of the units having reached there, I think we can say that it is sufficiently met its sync matrix requirements. Task group 2 for NATO is instantly going to react to this, even though they are going to be rolling with negative modifiers because of the suppression and the disrupted markers that they each face. So we'll start with the unit that is in the shell scrapes and overwatch north of the river, and which has a javelin, so I think is going to use the javelin against the tracked unit with the mounted infantry within it. So it's going to be firing obviously with the javelin. Let's just go through the modifiers of direct fire. There's no target marker. The troop quality is 5, so there's a +1 to the no, I beg your pardon, no, the troop quality is reduced to 3, so because it's less than so troop quality is normally 5, but it's obviously reduced to 3 because of the disruption. That's going to result in a -1. It has an overwatch marker, so that's +2, but obviously that overwatch now is, we can flip over, is activated, so we're at +1. The line of sight doesn't pass through any, just double check that it's not found itself in any, no, is not in any terrain. So we're still at +1, and that is all we need to worry about. We're looking on the javelin. Javelin is the best column to roll on, so this could be messy if we roll high. We roll a 6, +1 is 7 with the javelin. That does 2 hits. So let's just remove these two. Oh, use my fingers. So it has a coherence of 3, so we're going to reduce that down to 1. Before I put it back, we're just going to we're going to have to roll twice for the 2 hits for the mounted infantry, so 4+ to see whether any of those cause collateral. Yes, they both do, a 4 and a 5. Wow, the Russians have really suffered with collateral damage. They've been a bit unlucky on that, but that's the way it goes. So that is also reduced to 1 coherence. So let's restack everything. The mounted unit has its RPG. Let's put that back. I mean, the game really shows that being caught out in the open is not wise. That javelin has been used once, so there's 1 more to go. And we can now turn to this one, which is going to fire with its NLAW, see if it can finish off the job. So this time its troop quality is 5, reduced by that suppression to 1. And of course I must remember to place a suppression marker on that Russian piece. There's a lot of pieces now beginning to stack up. Stacks get a little bit large, but it's not too problematic. Let me just narrow in a bit. So rolling with the N-Law, again against the tracked unit. And I think in this instance, with a troop quality of 5-4, there's no modifier there, but there's no overwatch, so we're on a straight roll. That's a roll of 6 using the N-Law, which is a 1 result. So the 1 result is going to finish off the tracked unit, and we're now going to have to see whether on a 4+, it's a 4, so that Russian piece is done. So those are 2 more casualties, and this has turned out to be a pretty punishing sequence of events for the Russians. The activation marker can now be placed here, and task group 2 has activated, or I can remove that target marker. The Russians are going to, before they start moving these task groups, see if they can just soften up these NATO pieces here using their FPV. So I think the 2 pieces are exactly the same. So I think we'll go for the one that's in the open rather than the one. Oh, actually, yes, I think that's probably the best to do. Now, the only problem is the FPV has on the sync matrix this grid square E23 N22 as its target. There's nothing there now, so it is going to have to fire outside its FPV, outside its sync matrix order, because I want to attack this grid E22 N22. So that is going to generate, because it's outside the fire plan, 3 ETX markers. So that is going to be rather punishing. Now, one of the reasons I can do that is because I do keep, for the Russians, they have this ComSecure EW chip, which will allow them to discard 2 ETX markers at some point. So it gives them a bit of latitude, but nonetheless, they are definitely losing on the TX, on the electronic warfare front, because they're generating more noise than NATO is. So I've taken 2 additional chits. Here they are, put them to the side. We'll reveal those at the start of the next turn. And the FPV, which has 3 strikes remaining, is going to, oh, beg your pardon, is going to attack this infantry unit that's in the open. So no target marker. We do have a UAS with line of sight, so +2 to the die roll. The friendly recce here, does it have a line of sight? I don't know that it... Oh, yes, it does. Yep, that's fine. So the recce there is providing line of sight. So that's another +1. It's not in any cover, so we're at +3. Does the target have a moved marker? It does. That's -2. So we're at +1. It's not a tracked vehicle. So we're at a +1, firing with the FPV. I need an 8 or better, modified 8 or better. I only roll a 4, so that strike fails. I do have the option for a double tap. So I could fire a second time. but I don't think I don't think I will. I think I'm going to. No, I am actually. This. Oh no, because that would generate. No, I'm not. I'm going to. I'm going to preserve the fire for the remaining 2 turns. So I reduce the FPV from 3 to 2. We use it using these little grey markers to track that off the map. That has been activated. I've drawn the TX chits. However, is there automatic suppression from FPV? Yes. Foot FEs within 250 meters are automatically suppressed by an FPV strike. So whether they take damage or not, they do. Shall I just put it to the side? And because this is within 250 meters, that is suppressed as well. So it's taking cover. So that's the end of that strike. We go back to NATO. NATO have Task Group 3 and the mortar. I think we are going to fire with the mortar, and the mortar is indirect fire, is going to fire at this exposed Russian piece here. It can do so because we have a line of sight provided by the UAS from there. First of all, we have to check with mortar whether there's a danger close restriction, 250 meters. So if we had a friendly unit within 250 meters, which we don't, we couldn't do that. So that's fine. The mortar's range is 8,000 meters, so no problem at all. That is also going to suppress any other units automatically, as long as they're not mounted, which they aren't. So there's UAS with line of sight +2. Do we have a friendly HQ providing line of sight? Well, the HQ is there, but it's not going to be able to provide line of sight because of the obstruction in the way, two partial obstructions in the way. So still +2. The target is not in any cover. It should have a moved marker. I didn't put a moved marker on it actually. So the moved marker is going to negate the +2, so we're at level. And we are going for the non-tracked because the tracked one would get a bonus. So we're going for this in foot FE here, this one. So straight roll with mortar. 1, 2, 3. That's a fail. So the mortar, that task group is done. It's been activated. I'm trying to remember if that had moved or not. Even if it hadn't, the roll would have still been too low. Anyway, not to worry. But there is automatic suppression, any FEs within 250 meters. So the target itself is suppressed, but because this is the tracked vehicle unit there, that isn't suppressed. So we just suppress the target foot FE. Back to the Russians. So task group 3 down here. Now it has a fairly clear run, as it were, to this grid square, which is its en route to its objective. And of course, nothing here has overwatch, so they can't suffer any reactive fire. So we're going to do a fire move. We're going to start with this stack here, and 2000 is going to kind of bring it 1, 2, yeah, we'll bring it in here. So comes in here, and we can't dismount now because obviously it's moved, or the mounted infantry has moved with that tracked unit. But having moved, it's going to fire from here, and it's going to fire on this exposed foot FE. So we've got a direct fire. Let me just check. Yep, the tracked unit will fire on the 2 column against this unit. It's not doesn't need to use the in fact it can't of course use the stabber against the foot unit. So there's no target marker. We're going to roll 2d6. That gives us an 8. The value of the target marker, no. The troop quality of that, I think it's been reduced, so it's down to a 4 troop quality. So in fact it's down to a 3 because of the suppression on it. Okay, I'm going to have to go back because of course it's suppressed, so it could only move half the distance. Good job I spotted that before that was too late. So we're going to have to pull back, and it will only get to about here, I think, from where it was. But still within range. Line of sight is still okay. Doesn't clip that wood, that's fine. But troop quality is 3, so that knocks the modifier down by -1. No overwatch marker. We're not within dense wood or urban. It's an unobstructed line of sight, so we don't need to worry about that. The target isn't dug in, but another -2 because of move fire action. So we're on a -3, firing on the 2 column. I haven't shown the direct fire chart for a bit. So we're firing on the 2 column with a -3. Range of results from 2 steps of loss, damage 1, and then suppressions. But we had 8 -3, which gives 5, and so that is a suppression. But because the foot FE is already suppressed, we don't suppress it any further. So we can mark that as having moved. The second stack is not suppressed. Actually, I think I've probably got that wrong again, actually, because it was a tracked vehicle moving in the open, so it could move 2,000, so it could have moved the full 1,000. So, sorry, I got that wrong. So, suppression would have reduced its movement by 50%, and moving in the open, it can move 2,000. So, I was right, it could get to that point there. This one, this tracked unit, it has no suppression, so it can go its full 2,000 meters of movement. So I think we're going to bring it here, 1 there, and then I think what we'll probably do is we're going to flank round here, and in this instance it's going to, so I think we can get, okay, I think maybe pull it back there just more realistically. It too is going to do a fire move. Its troop quality is 4. That hasn't been reduced, so there's no negative modifier because of its troop quality, but because it is fire moving, there is a -2 on the direct fire roll. So I'm going to roll the dice. 6, 3, 9 minus 2 is 7. With a 2, that again is a suppression. It needed to be 1 pip higher, and that would have caused 1 loss of resilience. So another moved. That's task group 3. And we go back to NATO. NATO has just this one task group here, these 2 units. They're on Overwatch, they're dug in. I am and to note, they could not have fired at this unit here because it would have been passing through 2. In fact, well, this urban area is a dense obstruction, and here this would be moving through 2 partial obstructions, so that would have blocked line of sight. Even though they're on Overwatch, they couldn't have fired. I'm not inclined to move them because being on Overwatch is useful. I don't want to move them because they'll then lose their dug-in shell scrapes. I could fire with this against this unit here. There's a sort of actually no, I can't, sorry, it hasn't got a RPG, and that is a tracked vehicle, so even if there were a line of sight, and there probably is, it doesn't, it's a foot unit and can only fire against another foot unit or in an assault, and we're sure to get to that. So task group 3 is going to pass, and we come back now to the Russians over here. They've got 2 task groups still to activate. Task group 2, which, as with task group 3, has got to attack enemy forces in grid square E22, N22. So again, it's got to attack units here with an intention later to attack forces south of Cindy Bridge. So they're pushing on. So this stack moves a little bit through, but we're going to move up to around there. We're going to do another fire move. And I don't know whether I'd have been wise to dismount at some point, but anyway, I haven't. And again, firing the 2 column. Again, I'm going to fire on this unit that is exposed rather than has the protection of the light woods. Again, a -2 die roll modifier because of the move fire action. But in this instance, its troop quality is 5. So we get a +1 for that. So the overall modifier in this instance is -1. So that's a better chance. I'm going to roll the dice. Okay, so that's interesting. So I've rolled a 10, -1 is 9. 9 on the 2 column is 1 hit. So this unit is reduced from 3 resilience, that's the 2A1, to 2. And because that is a hit on a suppressed unit, that suppressed unit now becomes disrupted. So another hit against that unit will eliminate it. So if it fails to pass a rally test, so suddenly that's facing a degree of peril. So that was a successful advance. That's task group 2 activated. The ally, the NATO again, not going to use that Overwatch because that line of sight is obstructed. It's firing from a light obstruction and then firing through a second light obstruction or partial obstruction, which blocks the line of sight. So task group 4, the recce unit, that simply has until the rest of the game to screen to Cindy Bridge, so it's providing line of sight. So I'm trying to think where positioning it will do. I mean, at the moment, it is actually providing quite good line of sight for units moving forward. I don't see that there's any benefit to be gained from taking it out into the open. I could perhaps move it up a little bit. I could move it out. Sorry, I could move it out of the open so that it is not firing through this partial obstruction from where it is. So I probably do want to get it out. The question is, where is it best placed? So I think actually what I am going to do is I'm going to bring it up here. So it's a tracked vehicle. It's got 2,000 meters. So I'm going to bring task group 4 up here, and it's going to support the line of sight of, we'll try and improve the line of sight as, I'm trying to think, maybe you're just going to bring it in here. I think now to provide as best of a line of sight as it can provide. Sheer weight of numbers perhaps creates dilemmas for NATO as to which pieces to attack. So I think actually just being here, providing line of sight to there, down here, even there, it's perhaps less clear that it's got line of sight to there, but I think it probably does. So I think that actually not a bad position to put it. That's task group 4 activated, and I think I'm going through this at a fairly fast lick now. Perhaps not as careful as I might be, but it's not a game that needs to get bogged down actually. So that is the end of all the task group activations. So we simply now come to the cleanup phase. We remove all smoke moved activated markers. So let's remove these. I'm going to do a little tidy up, I think, of these stacks in a moment. There's quite a lot of action in that turn, and it's hard to say how this is going because both. The Russians have taken a fair amount of damage, but they are pushing, and there is not a lot of NATO force remaining, though NATO forces are in slightly better condition than the Russians, who I don't think can take a huge amount more damage before they're going to start being eliminated and their assaults kind of running out of steam altogether. If we'd have done an assault, the units that have been involved in that assault would have done a rally test. We flip any activated task group markers to their unactivated side, just as part of the cleanup to show that everything is active for the next turn. And finally, we return any unused EW markers. Now, we've got this one that the Russians haven't used, which allows them to discard 2 of the TX, these markers, these electronic transmission markers that they generated. They generated 4 during that turn. So they are I'm going to randomly remove 2 of those. We don't know what numbers they are, so those 2 are removed. And at the start of next turn in the electronic warfare phase, we will see what the NATO have held on to in terms of their transmission markers. And with that, the turn 3 ends, and we're into turn 4, the penultimate turn.